Namaste everyone and welcome once again to the series of Dekho Apna Desh. And of course, I have not been able to interact with all of you for the last few weeks because so much is happening in the space of domestic tourism. People are traveling so much. And of course, Omicron is around. So we need to be definitely careful. Something we've been saying to everyone, please wear your mask, keep the social distancing. And if you haven't got double vaccinated, please make sure that you get your second vaccine also, because I'm sure all of you must have at least got your first vaccine, with India going beyond 110, 115 crores. So everybody definitely has one vaccine. So do take the second one if you haven't. But today, where are we going and what is so special about today's webinar? I think the session as it unfolds, it is going to tell you more and more about it. But it is indeed such a pleasure to have with us today a very special subject brought to you by a very special person, Umesh Namdev Jadhav ji. He's a regional level guide. As you know, viewers, our guides are a treasure trove of information about India. They know so many things that you find in textbooks on Google, but the special part about them is that they know so many special things that you would never hear from anyone else if they were not to share those things with you. So Umesh, thank you for joining us and bringing to our viewers a subject which is of interest not only to Indians, but to people at large, because when we talk of Jyotirlings, then there is so much following around the world for the Lord. Now, I'm not going to tell you everything, am I? Because then what would you listen? So Umesh is going to talk everything about it. And I'm going to ask Dr. Ajay Singh, who is also the president of the Guides Federation. He is based in Uttar Pradesh, another place where we have a very famous Jyotirling. We will talk about all that later. But for now, enjoy the virtual journey today with us in Maharashtra. Dr. Ajay, would you like to come in at this point?
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, this was a good initiative of the Ministry of Tourism. Especially this initiative was taken by you to give the chance to the guide to put their knowledge in front of the tourism fraternity. So we are trying our best. And today, Umesh Jadhav ji, he is Secretary of the Tourist Guide Association of Aurangabad. And also Umesh Jadhav ji, he was assistant professor in Bhutan Royal University for 12 years. And he's RLG, regional level guide, and master degree in tourism management as well. So the very knowledgeable person, and he's very good presenter as well. Also, he is advisor of Tourist Guide Federation of India. And the many times we do the webinars for the knowledge enhancement program, as a knowledge enhancement program among the guides. And always the Dr. Umesh Jadhav, he leads us. So today we are fortunate that he is joining us. And it is also the coincidence and also wonderful thing that day after tomorrow, on 13th, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, he is going to inaugurate Biswanath Corridor at Varanasi. And all the chief minister of the states, the dozen of different union ministers, everybody is coming here. All the the Shankracharyas and all the Vidvat Parishad members, they are in Varanasi. Biswanath Corridor is going to inaugurate on 13th. Just before that, we are coming here with this beautiful subject, the Jyotirlinga of Maharashtra. And Umesh Jadhav ji is going to describe it scientifically, the explanation he is going to give about the Jyotirlinga. So among the Dwadash Jyotirlinga, there is 3 Jyotirlinga. It is in Maharashtra, and he will focus in the last part of this webinar on that. But before that, he will give a scientific presentation over the Jyotirlinga. Kashi Vishwanath is one of among 12 Jyotirlinga, and new corridor is going to start on 13. So we are going to start here. Umesh ji, Har Har Mahadev, start your webinar, please.
बिल्कुल, आज का तो बिल्कुल हर हर महादेव से ही शुरू होना चाहिए आज.
Namaste, ma'am, and thank you for your initiative for this Dekho Apna Desh webinar. And through your initiative, lots of people, not only in India but abroad, who has special interest into our heritage, they are getting aware of all these lesser known places, the unexplored places, and the places which are mostly in the category of unreached, and you are trying to make it reachable to the people. So thank you so much for your initiative. Thank you so much.
पहले कि आप शुरू करें, दो तीन चीजों पे मैं आई डोंट नो आपने क्या प्लान किया है. मेरे पास बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं आज. एक तो मैं बहुत दिन बाद जुड़ रही हूँ वेबिनार से, कुछ ना कुछ चलता रहा, बट मैं दो तीन चीजें आपसे गुजारिश करूंगी कि आप जरूर फोकस करें. Of late we've been trying to do a lot of research on the whole aspect of spiritual tourism. एंड हालांकि हम सब खुद अपनी जगह पे मंदिर, गुरुद्वारे, अपनी रिलीजियस प्लेसेस पे जाते हैं, पर हम उसको एक टूरिज्म के वर्टिकल के हिसाब से कई दफा बहुत सीरियसली इसलिए नहीं लेते कि हमारी लाइफ्स में रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस इतनी हैं सभी की, अपने अपने हिसाब से जिस भी रिलीजन को हम फॉलो करें, कि हम उसको एक टूरिज्म के पर्सपेक्टिव से नहीं देखते. एंड आई वांट टू शेयर विद ऑल द व्यूअर्स दैट आई शुड से प्लेजेंटली सरप्राइज्ड when we were trying to see some data and around the world, and these are figures coming from the world organizations, that 27% of the travel around the world happens because of religious tourism, spiritual tourism. And I am using both the terms linked together. They are not necessarily meaning the same, religious and spiritual, but it is in the same space, if we may look at it. And how India, therefore, has been the birthplace of 4 religions, and religions that are found across the world. How should we be leveraging that benefit from the tourism perspective is something, Umeshji, I would really want you to, use your experience and share with everyone, that how we in India need to leverage it far more than just, because as I said, इतना हमारे जीवन का हिस्सा है ये, कि हम उसको एक बिजनेस और एक उस व्यवसाय के वर्टिकल के हिसाब से कभी देखते ही नहीं शायद. So उसको कैसे हम शेप दें, I think that would be an important focus. The other thing I would really want you to focus on is because I've got a lot of queries. मैंने जैसे ये वाला पोस्ट शेयर किया, तो as I said initially also, न सिर्फ हम सबके लिए, भारत में रहने वालों के लिए या भारतीयों के लिए, बट बहुत सारे और लोग भी हैं जिनकी भोले बाबा की तरफ मानता एक अलग लेवल की है. तो हम आज क्योंकि महाराष्ट्र में हैं, वो तो एक पार्ट है ही, बट ओवरऑल जो इनकी महिमा की एक जो रीच है, एंड बोथ एट द रिलीजियस एंड स्पिरिचुअल लेवल्स, उस पे एक ब्रॉडर वे में भी अगर थोड़ा फोकस करेंगे तो आई एम श्योर आवर व्यूअर्स विल बी बेनिफिटेड.
Surely, ma'am. So I'll try to focus on all these 3 aspects. Number 1 is the scientific aspects of the Jyotirlingas. Number 2, as you have mentioned, the spiritual aspect. The spiritualism, which is not only important for the citizens of India, but all the the worldly citizens. And the third is the religious aspects. So thank you for that. So with this, namaste to all our viewers who have joined us through this social platform. So the Jyotirlingas, scientific, spiritual, and the religious places of union, the places of mukti, the places of moksha, the places of evolution, the places of development, and the places of growth. In this presentation, I'm going to cover on these special aspects of the Jyotirlinga temples. Basically, the source for this Jyotirlinga is being mentioned in the Dwadash Jyotirlinga Stotra. So what does that Dwadash Jyotirlinga Stotra means? That the universal law of the nature and the locations of the Jyotirlinga temples, how the orbit, how the Fibonacci numbers, how the center of energy, how the center of concentration, how the center of the airflow have played important role in selections of the constructions or the creations of the Jyotirlinga temple. the spiritual aspects of the Jyotirlinga temple. What does Lord Shiva means? The religious importance of Jyotirlinga temple. What generally people aspire after and before visiting this Jyotirlingam. And then towards the end of this presentation, I'll talk about those Jyotirlingas in Maharashtra. So these are the important points, I thought of covering in this presentation. So Somnatham in Saurashtra, Mallikarjun in Srishailam, Mahakal in Ujjain, Omkareshwar in Khandwa, the Vaidyanath in Parali, Bhima Shankaram in Khed, Rameshwaram in Rameshwar, Nageshwar in Darukavan, Kashi Vishveshwara in Varanasi, Trambakeshwara in Nasik, Kedarnath in Himalaya, and the Krishneshwar in Verul in Ellora. That makes the 12th Jyotirlinga. But when we see the Kotirudra Samhita of Shiva Puran, that has mentioned about the 64 Jyotirlingas across the different places of India and in Nepal. But out of this 64 Jyotirlingam temple, the 12 Jyotirlingam temples are considered as the most holiest places, the auspicious. And today's presentation, in the first part, we are going to cover the scientific, the religious, and the spiritual aspects of this 12 Jyotirlingam. And towards the end, we'll talk about this major Jyotirlingam in the state of Maharashtra. I want to start this presentation with an interesting discovery which has happened in India in the 2nd and 3rd century BCE. This discovery was made by Acharya Pingla, a great poet and the mathematicians, and also the author of Chandan Sastra. This Chandan Sastra is also called as Pingala Sastra. So what was his discovery all about? Basically, Acharya Pingala has studied the spiral shapes and the spiral sequence in the nature. For example, if you see the sunflower, it follows the spiral systems, the pine cones, the conch shell, the web of the spider. In fact, if you start looking into the galaxies, if you start looking into the cosmos, if you start looking into the universe, surprisingly, you will find that everything is in a spiral shape. So studying these things, he has invented Fibonacci numbers, the spiral sequence. In his Chandan Sastra Sutra, he has mentioned it as Matra Meru. So the sequence starts with these numbers like 0, 1, 1, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. What is there in this number? If you start seeing this number, and if you see this sunflower which is on the screen, or these pine cones, or the conch, or the web, you will find that the center is the 0, and next to that center is a 1, and then there is another 1. So this 1 and 1 makes 3. So 3 plus 5 makes 8. 8 plus 5 makes 13. 13 plus 8 makes 21. 21 plus 13 makes 34. 34 plus 21 makes 55, and so on. And this is how the design of the cosmos, the design of the Milky Waves, the designs of the universe, and the design of the sunflower. So these are the secret code in the nature itself. And Acharya Pingla has studied this code. And to uncode the centers of energy, to uncode the measurements of the distance. So this series is found everywhere, in the sunflower seed, in the pine cones, in the web of spider, in the shape of conch shell. This is the universal law. This is the universal law of nature. So this great mathematical pattern can be geographically represented as spiral. And that is the most important part in selection of the locations of the Jyotirlinga. Isn't it amazing? If you start locating the Jyotirlingam on the maps of India, all those 12 holy temples which are mentioned in the Dwadash Sutra, taking Mahakal at the center, because it is located at the center of India. And if you start looking in understanding the air flows from all different directions to the central part of India. So the central part of India is the center of the concentrated energy. So start from there and connect the other locations in India, the locations of the Jyotirlinga. You would be surprised to have this conch, this spiral on the map of India. So this conch shape, the spiral shape. So constructions of the Jyotirlinga hasn't happened like these are the places and let's construct it. But when you look into the energy in the cosmos, the energy balance itself by the self always. And that is how the whole universe is balanced. It's in harmony. We have all these planets, we have all these solar systems, the galaxies, they all are submerged in the space, in the all-pervading space. But everything is well organized. It's in balance. So the energy balances itself by always. The flows of the energy is from the concentrated to the colder region. Look at the Mahakal, the concentrated region of the energy. And as you proceed towards Kedarnatham, it's in Himalaya, the colder region. The energy flows from hotter region to the colder region. So as the air flows from the region of high pressure to the low pressure. And this is the scientific reason for selection of the locations of this 12 Jyotirlinga temple. Now with it, if you start seeing the spiritual aspects of the Jyotirlingam, the Indian philosophy, the Indian knowledge and science, is based on these two things. The one is all pervading, which is intangible, which is invisible, unsmellable, untouchable. And the other is the matter. So these are the two realities which exist in the whole existence. The one which is there everywhere, all pervading, continuous, ananta, endless. And in that all pervading, you have all these matters. So these matters can be seen in the forms of atoms, atomic structures, planets, material, mountains, rivers, stones. These matters can also be seen in the forms of herbs, shrubs, trees, plants, seeds. These are the matters of animals, different species of the birds, and the matters also, the body of human being. So when you start seeing it into it, you find that the existence has got these two reality. The one is this all pervading, everywhere. And every single unit which exists in the existence is submerged in this all pervading. So that all pervading is called Purusha, and the matter, which takes forms and so can give the different bodies and all sorts of shapes and the kinds, is Prakriti. So Lord Shiva is the symbol of the Purusha and the Prakriti. In the Lord Shiva, we can see that this Purusha and the whole Prakriti is submerged in the Purusha. So the matter is not only submerged in the Purusha, in the all-pervading, but in every ansham, in every portion of the matter is submerged in this unaudible, intangible, invisible, unsmellable, untestable Purusha. So the matter is the one which can touch, taste, smell, see, and hear. So all these solid, liquid, gases of chemists are made up of matter. And all these matters are submerged in the Purusha, in the all-pervading. So this is the spiritual values of Jyotirlingam. In fact, if you see the basic philosophy of spiritualism, for that matter, focusing on the Indian spiritualism, focusing on the Indian knowledge system. So the Indian knowledge system, the Indian philosophy is always talks about the well-being for all. The material well-being is seen as a small portion of it, as a small part of it. We can start saying that the body, the shariram, is a jada, is a material. So a need of a material gets fulfilled by the another material things. The need of jada gets fulfilled by another jadam. For example, the food is the need of shariram. The cloth is the need of shariram. But when we see the human is the coexistence of the two different entities, the two different units. The one is the self and the other is the body. So the need of this self is this knowledge, is the wisdom, is the realization within, understanding the things, ensuring harmony within. So the Indian philosophy focuses on the well-being for all and just not the material well-being. Material well-being has been seen as a very small portion of the well-being for all. So what does that well-being for all means? By self-transformation, I understand this all-pervading. I understand and realize how each of this matter is submerged in the all-pervading. I understand the relatedness, the connectedness, the harmony in the whole existence. And even if you see the nature, even if you see the society, the family and myself, at all these different, these are the expanse of my being. And as an individual, I want to live in harmony at all these expanse of my being. So understanding this through the self-transformation and developing the competency to live with the fulfilling life towards yourself, towards family, towards society, towards nation, towards world, towards nature, and towards the whole existence. So that is what the well-being for all. So individual grows this wisdom and ability, and this growing within is evolution. And this evolution is called and referred as Vikasam, the development in the Indian philosophy. So such development is happen in the self, by the self, with the own efforts. The desires to be fulfilled and enjoyed through the material is considered as an enslavement. So whenever we try to, enjoy with only the materialistic things, then it's sort of in bondage, it's sort of an enslavement of the sensations. And we always try to keep fulfilling the sensations part. But if you notice how this sensation works, for example, eating food, right? So these are the sensations which comes from the body, the sensations of the hunger. And to satisfy these sensations, to nurture and to provide the nourishment to the body, you need food. So can I take an example of some sweet like rasgulla? So you are hungry and you want to eat rasgulla. And there is whole, bucket full of rasgulla in front of you. And it's your favorite food. And you start eating this food. You are hungry. The stomach is hungry. The rasgulla is very sweet and tasty. But once your stomach is full, do you enjoy the same taste of the rasgulla? And even after that, even the stomach is full, the capacity is over, But the Rasgulla is giving you that favorable test. And if you go for eating one more, then you find that slowly that test vanishes, it disappears. And eventually the Rasgulla becomes testless and reach to the state of non-requirement. It's not necessary more. And if you keep eating, it becomes intolerable. So this is an enslavement, right? This is a sort of a momentary gain, a very temporary gain. But the philosophy, the Indian knowledge system doesn't focuses on this temporary gain, but it focuses on this continuous gain. And that continuous gain is realizing within, transforming within to the consciousness. So the identification of the basic, the innate, the invariant desires and development of the competency to fulfill that innate, invariant desires is basically the development. So what are those innate things in us? Let us say like one of these enslavement is when we try to enjoy the life with the materialistic things. Let us say, for example, a car. So you wanted to buy this car till the point you do not have it, you are restless. But after getting the car, do you feel comfortable forever? You're driving in the car on a national highway, listening to the music which you wanted to listen, sitting with a person in the car. Everything is going the way you wanted to have. But the person who is sitting in the car and you are having some sort of conflict, disputes, a sort of opposition for each other. Does that car makes you comfortable? So the innate desire, what we have, if you start identifying it, let us ask this question to ourselves to understand what are my innate desires. The unhappiness in you, the unhappiness in your family, is it more due to the lack of physical facility, or is it more due to the lack of fulfillment of relationship with each other? So the relationship is our innate desire. We always want to live with the feeling of relationship. That's innate. That's every moment we have. Naturally, we have that wanting of living with the feeling of relationship. So the natural want of feeling with the relationship, can it be fulfilled by these materialistic things? Or for that, you need to have this wisdom within. So this is what the philosophy talks about. This is what the spiritual aspects of Indian spiritualism. Now we see that every possible devices across the country, every possible situations which has been made to enhance this process of transformation within. If you know this process, how to investigate within, how to explore within, how to verify within, then this Jyotirlingam have been a very powerful tools in this direction. You just get into the Garbhagruha of any one of these Jyotirlingam and sit there quietly just for the couple of minutes. With the process of developing within yourself, those couple of minutes are enough to get connect to your own self. And through connecting to your own self, connecting to the all pervading. So these are such a powerful places. These are the centers of energy and the power. And that is the beauty of these places. So the Jyotirlingam doesn't stand only for the temples where the devotee could come and worship. But Jyotirlingams are the temples, are the places, are the locations, particularly the Garbhagruha, are the places where one can transform within himself. One can reach to the state of an evolution, the state of an development, the state of an realization, the state of an salvation. So the Purusha, which is all pervading, and every single unit of the matter, every single ansham of the matter is submerged in this Purusha. So these are the places. This is the spiritual importance of the Jyotirlingam temple. Now let us try and understand what is meant by a temple. We don't call it as a temple, we call it as Devalaya. So Devalaya is seen in the two different forms, the spiritual Devalaya and the structural Devalaya. So when you talk about the spiritual Devalaya, we can see that it's everywhere. Even the shariram of a manava, the human being, is also considered as Devalaya. The confluence of the river and the ocean, Ganga Sagar, the mountain, Arunachalam, Triveni Sangama, the confluence of the river, the trees. So every single element of the matter is considered as a Devalaya, and for that sake, the whole existence is a Devalaya. With this, we have the structural Devalaya, the places where we could go and offer our worship, the places where we could go and invest the time to gain the jnanam, the wisdom within. So these are the structural Devalaya. So when you look into the structural temples of India, these are not only the temples, the place for the congregation and the place to offer the worship, but these are the socio-economic hubs. These are the places where the people meet, they talk about their families, they share their values with each other, they discuss the issues and the problems, they try to solve it. These are the places of economic hub too. These are the centers. If you see around the temples, there are many things, because when you go to the temple, you don't go empty hand. At least you carry a flower to offer as a gesture of your reverence towards the Ishvara. These temples are the seats of the justice. There are many references can be seen in the Indian history where the great judgment has been passed by the kings, by the rulers, or by the masters in the temples of India. These are the education centers. Any temple, if you start seeing it, you would find that there are lots of stories. The shlokam, the stotram, everything. If you just pay attention on the words and the meaning, and the words and the meaning which indicates the reality. So this helps you to understand the reality and to see the reality as it is without your perceptions. And that is what the wisdom is. These are the epic centers of the arts, numerous numbers of the murals, numerous numbers of the stories, numerous numbers of different arts you could see in the temples of India. And these are the places of the historical documents. So Devalaya doesn't stand only for the place of congregation or the place of meeting or the place of offering the worship, but it is a socio-economic hub. It is seat of justice. It is an education center. It's epic center of arts, place of historical document. With this background, let us start focusing on the third aspects of the Jyotirlingam, the religious aspects. Very interesting story, right, which has been mentioned in the Shiva Purana about the formation of the Jyotirlingam, how the Jyotirlingam has formed, what has happened. We always struggle for the supremacy. And the same thing has happened, once these aspects of the creator, Brahma, and the aspects in which he preserved, Vishnu, had a debate on supremacy. And the debate was not going to settle them between the two of them. And the debate had involved supporters of the Brahma and the supporters of the Vishnu. So that has become a huge problem. And finally, the Lord Shiva, he pierced the three worlds, appearing as a huge, infinite pillar of light, Shivam, which is there in every single ansham, in every single portion of the matter. And the Lord Shiva says, let us settle it down. Let's see who is supreme. One of you can start finding out the origin of me, and the other can go finding out where I ends, the starting and the ending point. Such an interesting things. The endless, the continuous, and the all-pervading is asking to find out his origin and his end. Not possible. But the Brahma decided to sit on the swan. So be seated on the swan. He flew up and up and up. And Vishnu as Varaha decided to see the end of this flame of the fire, the flame of light, the Jyoti. After some times, when we say sometimes in the modern days, it's like few hours or few moments. But when we say the sometime, so that sometimes in this ancient word, the Lord Brahma came and he started claiming that he has seen the origin point of the Shiva, this infinite pillar of light. The Lord Shiva, the God of compassion, but also the aspect in which he dissolved. The Pacific yogi, but the terrific classical dancer, Tandava. And just by dancing Tandava, he could change the universe, turn the earth, got very upset and angry. And he cursed Brahma for lying. Vishnu considered his defeat, but the Brahma lied. So the Shiva said, though you are the aspects in which you create the universe, but you would not be worshipped. So this flame of the fire, and later on turned out to be a Lingodbhava, and that's a very popular episodes from Shiva Puran. And this flame finally settled down, which is later cooled into the holy mountain of Annamalai. So the Jyotirlinga shrines are the temples where Shiva appeared as a fiery column of light. So this is the religious aspects. Now let us come to the these important Jyotirlingas in the state of Maharashtra. Hope you are ready for the tour of Maharashtra Jyotirlinga tour. Let's start with Trambakeshwar. By traveling 180 kilometers from Mumbai, finally we reached to this place called Nasik. Nasik, the holy place, the place which is associated with Ramayana, the place which has Ghat. Generally, when you talk about and when you think about Varanasi, whatever you have in the Varanasi in the north, you find the same thing, the similar things are there in Nasik. The Nasik has got Pandulena. The Nasik has got this Trambakeshwar temple, 180 kilometers from Mumbai. So according to the Shiva Purana, this Gautam Rishi, who was residing in the place near Brahmagiri mountains, he was a great devotee of Lord Varuna. And, he kept worshipping Lord Varuna till he received the boon, the power with ultimate supply of food and the grains. So now the Gautam Rishi has got this ultimate supply of food and grains. And you could imagine what he was doing with it. He was giving, he was donating, he was giving the charity, he was helping the people who didn't have enough to eat. He was feeding the animals around. And because of that, he started gaining a reputation as a very generous rishi. But there is a jealousy. The people around, had started getting jealousy because the way the Gautam Rishi was doing, rightly utilizing the boon which was received from Varuna. So these people, they made a plan. They sent a cow to grain the stock. When Gautam Rishi saw that the cow is, spoiling the whole stock of food and the grains, he got a little disappointed. And then he tried to remove the cow from its premises, and unintentionally, he killed her. After realizing the mistakes, he went to the Lord Shiva and he asked the help to clean his sin and purify the entire premises of Brahmagiri. So Lord Shiva, after hearing his prayer, asked Ganga to flow through the land and to clean his sin and the area around. And this is how the Godavari, the Gomati, has arrived in Brahmagiri, near Trambakeshwara. So this is a very interesting story of this Trambakeshwara temple. When we look into the conventional temples and the Garbhagriha particularly, we see the lingam, the recognition. Lingam, matlab pahchan, Purusha lingam, Stri lingam. So when you look into the Garbhagriha, we see the lingam, but in Trambakeshwara, it has 3 pillars signifying the Holy Trinity, the Brahma, the Vishnu, and the Mahesh. The temple was commissioned by Nana Sahib Peshwa, and the darshan time, the temple starts at 5:30 in the morning and it remains open till 9 p.m. A special puja is held. The morning puja, we call it as the Pratah Puja, 7 to 9 a.m. Madhyana Puja, 1 to 1:30 p.m. And the Sandhya Puja, the Golden Crown Puja, 4:30 to 5 p.m. And these are the special, the timings. If you happen to be there during this puja, you get to see the original form and how the mantra being recited, chanted. So that makes this place very special. The moment you are in, this land of Brahmagiri, the Trambakeshwara, you see this beautiful Brahmagiri around. And then it's a narrow street, and the both sides of the streets you find lots of these small, tiny shops selling the puja samagri, selling the conches, selling rudraksha, mithai, and flowers. And as you keep approaching towards the temple, you see this the kalasha, which is made of a black stone. Nice temple to visit. Just remember a couple of things like the cell phones or any sort of electronic devices, including the cameras, are not allowed. And of course, the shoes, the footwears are not allowed in any of the temples. But there are lots of stalls where you can keep your cell phones and shoes in a safe locker. As you enter inside the temple, you see this huge structure, which is initially built by Nana Sahib Peshwa in the black stone. Look at this portion of the temple, like this Rekha Shikhara, the pyramidal structure. This is a typical Nagara temple of architecture. So beautiful temple constructed in Nagara temple architecture. You follow the a long queue most of the times to get into the Garbhagriha to see Trambakeshwar. As you come out, enjoy the beauty of the architectural details and the beauty of this temple, and then just come to the Aurangabad. 30 kilometers from Aurangabad, there is this Krishneshwara. Aurangabad, the another historical city in the state of Maharashtra, has got history of more than 2000 years connected to the Satavahana dynasty, very famous for the World Heritage Sites and the rock cut temples of Ajanta and Ellora, the capital city of Yadavas like Devgiri, Daulatabad, the tomb of Aurangzeb, and of course the Taj of Deccan, Bibi Ka Maqbara. So 30 kilometers from Aurangabad, here is this temple called Krishneshwara. This Krishneshwara is also known by its various names like Kusumeshwara, Kushumeshwara, Dumeshweshwara, Krishneshwara, and all these means the Lord of Compassion. Queen Ahilyadevi Holkar had rebuilt this temple in 18th century. And she is also known as she rebuilt the Kashi Vishwanath temple or the Aunda Nagnath temple, the other Jyotirlinga temple. This temple remains open from 5:30 in the morning till 9:30 daily. However, Shravan is the time when a lot of thousands and thousands of devotees comes to this temple. And during the month of Shravana, it opens at as early as 9 o'clock in the morning, and it remains open till 11 p.m. And another, the special time to be in the temple is during this puja, the Prata Puja, Madhyana Puja, and the Sandhya Puja. Interesting story is associated with each of these Jyotirlinga, isn't it? So there was this couple, Sudaram and Suvedha, who lived in the Devgiri mountain. They didn't have a child. And because of that, this lady, Sudeha, always used to sad. So she remained sad and she thought of having a child, but it was not possible from her womb. So she decided and she requested her husband, Sudaram, to marry Gushma, her own sister. So after the marriage, the Sudaram and the Gushma had a beautiful boy, which made her parents proud. And their happiness acted as a thorn in the eyes of Sudeha. He has generated this jealousy. So without taking this jealousy further, Sudeha threw the baby into the lake. This is the same lake where the Sudaram used to discharge 100 lingam. After getting to know about his missing child, he went to this lake and prayed the Lord Shiva to get his son back. After listening to the prayer, the Lord of Compassion, he appears with the baby Sudaram had lost. So the Lord returned his child and disclosed Sudeha's evil deeds to Sudaram. Hearing to this, instead of getting angry on Sudeha or punished her, this husband, he prayed God to release her. So the God of compassion got impressed by the man of compassion, impressed by the generosity of this Sudaram. And then Sudaram also requested God to be resides in the form of Jyotirlinga, which is named as Krishneshwara. And the Krishneshwara temple is constructed in the Dravid architecture. Another beautiful place where every Shiva Bhakta, every individual, every person who visits enjoys the serenity around this place. And the Ellora rock cut temples are just walkable from this site, just 1.5 kilometers. So this is all about Krishneshwara. In the series of this 12th Krishneshwar Jyotirlinga temple, the Krishneshwar temple is considered as the last, the 12th one. So if you are on a pilgrim of Jyotirlinga, your pilgrim doesn't get completed till you visit the Krishneshwara. Interesting things before you enter inside this temple, you get to see this board written next to the shoe stand. It's written in Marathi, Apla ahankar vo chappal ithe soda. It's so interesting. Leave your ego and the footwear before you enter inside the temple. Queues are seen normally on the Saturdays and the Mondays, because these are considered as the holy days, and during the month of Shravan. Beautiful temple architecture constructed in red stone. One peculiarity of this temple, if a Purusha, a male, want to enter inside the Garbhagriha to do puja or abhishekam, he need to remove the upper garments. So the Shivalingam looks before the puja and looks after the puja. So the best time to visit the temple during the puja, so that you could be seated there. So from Krishneshwara, this is time to go to the Khed in Pune district, where the Bhima Shankar resides, 127 kilometers from Pune. Bhima Shankar is situated on the banks of the river Bhima. The temples open as early as 4:30 a.m. and it remains open till 9:30 p.m. Darshan starts at 5 a.m. in the morning and is continued till 9:30. During Madhyana Aarti at 3 p.m., the darshan is closed for 45 minutes. So this is something to remember, but you can be there in the premises of the temple during the Aarti. Only the temple, the entrance to Garbhagriha is not there for that 45 minutes. The story of Bhima Shankar is connected to very interesting stories. This is very one of the interesting stories. The son of Kumbhakarna, Bhima. So when Bhima got to know that he was the son of a demon, Kumbhakarna, who was killed by Lord Vishnu in the form of Lord Rama, then he decided to take revenge, the revenge of the Hatya of his father, the revenge against Vishnu. So he performed penance to highlight himself in front of Lord Brahma, to get heavy powers from him. Seeing his prayers, Lord Brahma fulfilled his wishes. And soon after getting all of the power, he started destructions on the earth. It's not easy to handle the power, right? And often it has been seen that the power is being misused. So the Bhima did. He also had fight with Kamrupeshwara, a devotee of Lord Shiva, and to put him behind the bars. This angered many gods, and they worshipped in front of Lord Shiva to finish the demon. A war went between the Lord Shiva, between these two, and eventually the Lord Shiva dust him out. So it is believed that this is the river from where the Lord Shiva appeared. This is the river which has formed due to the sweats of Lord Shiva. So all gods asked Lord Shiva to make this place as his home. This made him a new form, and that form is known as Bhima Shankara, Jyotirlingam. It is also believed, as I mentioned, that the river is formed with the sweat of Lord Shiva. Many temples are on the hill or they are on the plain, but to get into the Bhima Shankar, you have to climb down and down and down. It's a very interesting and nice path. And as you walk down and down, You see these small shops and the people around. There are some places, if you feel tired, you can just sit, relax, and enjoy that nice, refreshing limbu pani. And after taking a little rest, you can reach to the temple. Another beautiful, architecture of the temple, a nice place to be there, the nice place to work on your own self, work on your receiving development, reaching to the state of wisdom, the Bhima Shankar. Besides this, there are another two Jyotirlingam in the state of Maharashtra. Sometimes they are listed, particularly Vaidyanath. Sometimes it is listed in the top 12, sometimes it is not listed in the top 12. But these are the Jyotirlingas which are there in the 64 list of the Jyotirlingas lingam in the world. Vaidyanath, 217 kilometers from Aurangabad. This temple is built on the hill, as the Bhima Shankar is down the hill, but this is on the hill. And the temple is approximately at the height of 75 to 80 feet from the ground level. So here you are hiking. The main entrance is from the east, and it has got this magnificent door present, the brass platelets on it. This temple is also renovated by Queen Ahilyadevi Holkar in the year of 1706. And as we seen in Verur, Krishneshwara, that while performing Abhishekam, male devotee are not allowed to wear the clothes above the waist. Nice temple. And then finally, this is the fifth Jyotirlinga in the state of Maharashtra, the Nagnath. It's located in Aundha, 200 kilometers from Aurangabad. The present temple have been made by Yadavas of Devgiri in 13th century. But it is believed that the first temple at this site, this was constructed by Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, when they were expelled for 14 years from the Hastinapur. The temple covers a huge area of 7,200 square feet in height and 60 feet. The total area in which the temple campus is spread is about 60,000 square feet. Unbelievably beautiful architectural style, the carvings you see in this temple, which is built in Himadvanti architecture. And again, you can see that vertical lines from top to the down, which represent the Nagara style of architecture. So these beautiful Jyotirlingas, as we have seen their spiritual aspects, these Jyotirlingas are the temples of all pervading. The Jyotirlingas are located at all those destinations which are the centers of energy. The Garbhagriha Jyotirlinga are those places where you connect yourself to, where you get easily connect to yourself, and through that you get connect to this all pervading. There are unfortunately evidences in the history where the temples were tried to demolished, vandal, but they couldn't kill the power of this temple and the energy of this temple. So the power, the energy of this temple, still we can see. With this, I just would like to say, Dekho Apna Desh. There are a lot of things to see there in India. Thank you for your patience listening. Thank you.
So I think a beautiful presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
And, I think we have, of course, kind of run out of time, but I will just ask one question at this point, that in terms of, because, you are so closely associated with the trade yourself, how would you recommend that we as the ministry create an itinerary or promotional material so that when people, even within India or when people travel from out of India also to India, how should it be the best way that they can maximize? Let's say somebody's here for a purpose of visiting Jyotirlings, then how should one plan if I have, let's say, 6 or 7 days in India before me? Ajayji, you, Umesh, either of you can take that question.
Ajayji, would you like to talk about it?
You come, उमेश जी आप जवाब दो इस पे, फिर मैं आता हूँ.
All right, thank you. I will say like 3 days or maximum 4 days in the state of Maharashtra, and for the rest of the Maharashtra, Ajay Bhaiya can connect it. Maharashtra itinerary can start with Mumbai. So either Mumbai Pune or Mumbai Nasik. But the best way is you come from Mumbai to Nasik, Nasik to Aurangabad. On the way, when you travel from Nasik to Aurangabad, you visit this Krishneshwar temple and the Ellora cave, come to Aurangabad, from Aurangabad to Pune, and from Pune, fly to the next destination. And 3 days are okay for this month. Ajay Bhaiya?
Yes, it is right. But if someone want to visit Jyotirlinga in the state of UP and Bihar, then they can connect easily Kashi Vishwanath and Baijinath Dham. Now that is in Jharkhand. It was, the earlier in Bihar, but now after division of Bihar state, so now it is in Jharkhand. So it is easily, the completed within 3 days tour program. One can fly from anywhere to Varanasi. Varanasi is well connected by road, by train, by air. So if you come to Varanasi, only 7 to 8 hour drive to Baba Baijinath Dham. So you can easily complete within 2 or 3 days. But in Uttarakhand, now Kedarnath temple, helicopter service started, so it is now very feasible. If one cannot walk longer, so they can, use the helicopter services. Otherwise, walking, from Gaurikund to Kedarnath, it is a really amazing route. I have completed it, and by walk, and it's around 6 hours climbing, and then when you are coming back, it is 4 hours, the walking down. So that you can do that one as well. South Indian Jyotirlinga can be easily completed, but you need 5 to 6 days for that. If one can want to complete whole Jyotirlinga, then they need minimum 15 days, and we can make a beautiful tour program for that. I think it is okay.
No, I think that's a good suggestion, because normally, when people are traveling, they want to know kahan se kahan jaye and all. I think so. We should, Ajayji, I think we should craft a few itineraries and start putting out, because people are getting very, very interested in specific subjects these days. They don't want to just go to a place; they want to visit a whole concept. And Jyotirlings को लेके काफी बार सवाल आते हैं कि कैसे best plan किया जाए. So I think it will be a good idea to do that. अब 12:05 हो चुके हैं, इसलिए we don't have too much time. लेकिन मैं उमेश जी आपसे ये पूछूंगी कि अपनी तरफ से कोई लास्ट एक बात सबको कहना चाहें, particularly when we are reaching out, I would say to people post COVID, your own feeling about India, because we know that India has gone for a very aggressive vaccination campaign. So within India, we are in fact already traveling quite a lot. As I said in the beginning, certainly precautions are needed. We need to keep wearing our mask and vaccination, particularly with the fear of Omicron looming large in the world. But still, what message would you like to leave for all our viewers at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we are going through one of the toughest time of this human history. the pandemic. But the way India and the Indians has handled this first phase of pandemic, that has set an example to the whole world. I mean, when we say India, जब भी हम भारत की बात करते हैं तो बहुत अलग रूप से हमें भारत को देखना होता है, क्योंकि ये केवल देश नहीं है, लेकिन यहाँ पर रहने वाला हर व्यक्ति दूसरे व्यक्ति को कनेक्टेड होता है। ये सोशल स्ट्रक्चर हमारा, सोशलिज्म, एक दूसरे को हेल्प करना। बहुत लोग पैंडेमिक में एक जगह से दूसरे जगह पर मूव कर रहे थे लॉकडाउन के दरमियान, लेकिन उतने से भी बड़े नंबर पर लोग एक दूसरे को हेल्प भी कर रहे थे, खाना भी खिला रहे थे, शेल्टर्स भी प्रोवाइड कर रहे थे। इतना अच्छा ताना बाना हमारे समाज का आज भी भारत में दिखता है। तो जो भी प्रिकॉशंस है, उस प्रिकॉशंस के साथ हम बाहर निकल सकते हैं, हमारी धरोहर को देख सकते हैं। पर्टिकुलरली जो प्लेसेस है, जिन प्लेसेस में हम अपने साथ कनेक्ट होकर अपने में हार्मोनी में, अपने परिवार में, देश में, दुनिया में हार्मोनी के लिए अगर हम कुछ कर सकते हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि दिस इज द बेस्ट टाइम with all the precautions which is needed, following this behavior, the pandemic behavior, the COVID behavior, what we are saying all the times. We should start coming out and seeing the places around, helping each other.
Absolutely. And so many comments coming up. Kamal Golaji is saying this session was of utmost importance to me. I completed a solo tour of 12 Jyotirlings plus 2 additional Maharashtra on a bicycle. How wonderful. And excellent presentation. Somebody's asking for how to get in touch with you. Well, somebody's saying thank you. Pramod is saying thank you so much, sir, for this historic information. So I will only say to all the viewers that, it's the comments like these, which encourages us. This has been our, I should say, 110th webinar as part of the Dekho Apna Desh series. 100 were done by people in the trade, some normal citizens who just have a love for their country, for their neighborhood. But this series of 75 episodes specifically coming to all of you from our absolutely brilliant registered guides who work, over the years. They pick knowledge and they are sharing their acquired information and so much about India, India's culture. So out of that series of 75, this is the 10th one. And it's been a wonderful journey with you. Umesh, how does somebody get in touch with you? I can say this, that you can, after the presentation, you will find him, but I can leave Umesh's number. Umesh, agar aap apna number bole, I will just post it here.
98232
98232
74
899.
899.
There goes. So for anybody who wants to get in touch with Umesh Jadhav ji on travels on that side of our country, 982-327-4899. The recording will also be shared on the website very soon. We try and bring it in a day or two, but kabhi there's a delay, doesn't matter. You can go to the Ministry of Tourism website, go under the banner of Dekho Apna Desh, and you can see all the recorded episodes. So at this point, I am going to say thank you first to our presenter. Thank you, Umesh. And of course, thanks to Dr. Ajay Singh, who is steering this whole series, who keeps bringing wonderful people on our web stage. Thanks to NEGD, because you're making it possible, you're making it happen for us one after the other Saturday. We could not have been here without the tremendous support of NEGD led by Feroz here. But of course, the CEO, Abhishek Singh ji himself, always takes interest in making sure that we don't face any technical glitches. To my team in the ministry that tirelessly works on this subject passionately, and most importantly, to our viewers who have kept it going for us. Because in any episode, if we had seen a drop in your interest, it wouldn't have encouraged us to bring you the next one. So your participation, your support from across the world is what is keeping us going. Therefore, please, next time you have a banner, even if you don't get a banner, just go on the website of the ministry. You'll find the banner. Let it be known to your friends, family, children. These are great episodes to learn about your country from. And if you are a foreigner, then it's a great opportunity for you to learn about our incredible India. So please keep joining and keep watching it virtually till you don't travel. And if you're traveling, then pick any of these amazing 110 experiences of incredible India and just travel. So thank you so much. and देखो और दिखाओ अपना सुंदर अतुल्य भारत. We'll see you next Saturday, 11 a.m. with same amount of energy and enthusiasm. Bye everyone.